Table A, item 1 for ALTA surveys or land title surveys. What does it say? What does it mean? If you check Table A, item 1 on your survey, what do I, as the boundary surveyor, have to do for you? We're going to answer those questions in this video. So first thing I'm going to do is just read you Table A, item 1 right out of the land title survey specification. So here's what it says. Monuments placed or a reference monument or witness to the corner at all major corners of the boundary of the surveyed property, unless already marked or referenced by existing monuments or witnesses in close proximity to the corner. Now, that is a mouthful, especially if you are not a surveyor. What does that mean? It means I have to mark the boundary with monuments. That's what it means. Now, it's a little bit more nuanced than that. That's why it's a mouthful, but don't panic. We're going to explain what it means. So you got to break that Table A item down into 3 parts. So first it tells you what has to be done. The second thing it does is tell you where I have to do that thing. And then the third part of the Table A item is it gives you an exception to the rule that's laid out in the first 2 parts. So let's talk about number 1. What do I have to do? What has to be done if you check this item? I, the boundary surveyor, have to place a monument to mark each property corner. That's what I have to do. So it's something that physically needs to be done in the field. In a state like California, I have to set a durable monument. It has to be tagged or stamped with my license number. Now, the spec tells you that it can be a witness monument. What does that mean? That means if for some practical reason I can't set a monument on the actual corner, it's in the water or it's on the top of a giant boulder, I can set a nearby monument. We call it a witness monument to reference the corner. Okay, but I have to do one or the other at all major corners, right? I have to set a monument or a witness mark. So where do I have to do it? That's the second part. The second element there of that Table A item, where do I have to do it? It says, the spec says at all major corners. What does that mean? Well, there's a little bit of professional judgment that needs to be used there, but to me, major corner means at all major angle points and all lines of the boundary. So I can't just mark I can't just set 2 monuments, mark 2 corners on 1 line and say that I've met the requirement of the spec. I don't think that was the intent. So if it's a major angle point, or it's an important line of the survey, then it needs to be monumented either directly or by witness monuments. So there's a fair amount of work there. So just to be clear, let me give you an example where you might not have to set a monument. So let's say you have part of your boundary runs along a riverbank, right? And so there's a lot of very small angle breaks. In other words, there's not a big change in direction as you meander the bank of the river. You might not have to set a monument on every single one of those angle points. Maybe you only monument where the property lines intersect the riverbank. Maybe you only monument that, or maybe you only monument where there's a major change in direction along the riverbank. So that's an example of where you might not have to mark every corner. Okay, the third part of that Table A item is an exception to the rule laid out in the first 2 parts. So the first 2 parts say you have to set a monument at every corner, 1, 2. Okay, so then Rule 3 gives you an exception to that, or Part 3 gives you an exception to that rule. It says you don't have to do that if the corner is already marked. So if it's already marked by a monument, you don't have to set your own monument. Okay, so it doesn't say this in the spec, but I would add, especially here in California, that means marked by a monument in good condition. If it's not marked by a monument in good condition, you need to either rehab the monument or set your own monument. I think that's implied in the specification, even though it's not said directly. And then there's a little bit of wiggle room in the Table A item. At the last part of it says you don't have to set the monument if the corner is already marked by a monument or referenced by a monument in close proximity. What does that mean? Okay, so close proximity doesn't mean 2 miles away. To me, I like to use the tape measure rule. So to me, close proximity means if I can't measure from the witness monument to the corner with a tape measure, I got to set a corner, right? That's just my rule of thumb, okay? So sometimes clients try and get you to say that you met Table A when there is no monuments marking the subject parcel because you've got monuments on nearby parcels, marking nearby parcels. I don't think that cuts it, right? And I would encourage surveyors not to do that. I think if you check this Table A item, you better have a monument at the actual corner, all the major corners, or within a tape measure distance. That's my opinion. All right, so now you understand what Table A item is. Table A item 1 is, when should you check it if you are ordering an ALTA survey? My answer is every single time. You should check this item every time. Why? you're already paying for 90% of it. If you've got a surveyor, he's doing a good boundary, he or she's doing a good boundary survey, that's 90% of the cost of monument placement. If you decide not to set monuments at the time of the survey and you need to set monuments later, you are going to re-spend a bunch of that money. That is typically foolish. So you're already spending most of the money. Just go ahead and have the monuments set. The other reason is it prevents future encroachments. Okay, so if you set the monuments, it will prevent land title problems and boundary problems down the road. If you are the bank requiring the land title survey, you want to check Table A Item 1. And then finally, the third reason why it's a good idea to always check this Table A item is because it holds your boundary surveyor accountable. Boundary surveyors get nervous when they have to set monuments. We get nervous. That means if I'm going to set monuments, that means leaving a record behind. Everybody's going to be able to see my work, and I better do a good job. So I'm a little more careful when I have to set monuments. That's just human nature. Bad surveyors get really nervous about setting monuments. In fact, there are bad boundary surveyors that will not take your ALTA survey job if you make them set monuments, if you check Table A Item 1. So do it, check it, make them do a good job. You're already paying for it. It's going to prevent problems down the road. Make your surveyor set monuments. We have a new content manager here, content marketing specialist at Redefine Horizons, Lori. She's a great lady that's going to be helping with these videos. So I will have her in the description, give you a couple links. We will link to the video that talks about if you check Table A, Item 1, monuments, what that means. You can't wiggle out of the requirement. I actually have to meet the specs, so we'll put a link into that video. And then I think I have another video that talks about why it's a good idea to have monuments set if you're getting any kind of boundary survey, not just an ALTA survey. If we can find that, I will also have Lori link to that in the description as well. Thank you for watching. We will cover some more Table A items in these videos.